Hi, welcome back to the series of videos on Ind AS, that is Ind AS with Accountsman. In the previous video, we were discussing Ind AS 2 inventories and we had answered the questions regarding what is inventory, and we had also discussed why do we value inventory, and we had also moved into how. However, we discussed the word cost in detail in the previous session, but we were not able to discuss NRV. So let's just summarize the cost that we've discussed and then go to NRV. So let's go to cost here. So when we discuss the word cost, we basically told cost will include purchase price, conversion cost and expense incurred, and we discussed few items in specific, that is tax, transportation, discount, interest and overhead. So I've written this. Now I'll specifically mention those items which are not to be considered as a part of our cost. So items excluded from cost, whatever we discussed yesterday. So I'm just making a summary of those items which are excluded. Number 1, tax. When input tax credit is available. The next one, interest cost, unless allowed by Ind AS 23. The next one is cash discount, is again not allowed to be deducted from the cost of the specific item. Then the next item that we have is selling and distribution overhead. I told you from the factory to the customer's place, again selling overhead or distribution overhead. So all these are not part of the cost. If there is any storage cost, because it is only to bring to the location. After that, if you store it in one place, if you pay salary to the watchman and everything, that's not part of our inventory cost. And lastly, the item that is not included will be abnormal loss. If there is any loss which is not within our control, that will become abnormal loss. If it is a regular class, I would have definitely discussed abnormal loss, everything with the help of an example. However, it's a revision session, so we will not be discussing everything with the help of example. I hope you understand the concept of abnormal loss here. So we're done with this entire context. So now let us focus on this word NRV. So come on, let us start discussing NRV. NRV. NRV is net realizable value. You get that? So how do we find net realizable value or NRV? Simple. We would have to take selling price, and from the selling price I'll deduct my selling expenses. What will be selling expenses? Selling expense can either be commission or at times it can be conversion cost also. You get that? Now I have a specific shirt. If I sell this specific shirt, I might receive 100 rupees. So 100 rupees is not my NRV. 100 rupees is my selling price. In order to sell it at rupees 100, I might have to pay some brokerage to someone. I would have to pay some commission to someone. Then what would happen? Assume that I am paying 2 rupees as commission. So I'll sell the shirt at 100. I receive 100 from my customer, but I would have to pay 2 rupees to this agent. So the net amount that will be remaining in my hand is 98. So 98 is my net realizable value. You get that? So if the discussion is with respect to finished goods will have what? Finished goods will have selling price, finished goods will have commission. Finished goods will not have conversion cost because finished goods are already ready to be sold. They are the items which are held for sale. Now the discussion will come with respect to work in progress and raw material. Now we'll discuss with regard to work in progress. With respect to work in progress, upfront there is no selling price. Why? Work in progress means semi-finished goods. Now I have some cloth which is cut into pieces. It is not stitched into a shirt. Will you buy it? Definitely no. If I ask you to buy it, you will tell, I will buy it provided you stitch it for me. So what will I do? I would have to incur conversion cost. When I incur conversion cost, that work in progress will get shifted to finished goods, and it right now has selling price also, and I have to pay some commission also. So work in progress is the item which is not ready for sale. So would have to incur conversion cost to make it ready for sale, and then arrive at the selling price, also pay the commission. With respect to raw material, I know only to buy raw material, not to sell raw material. Now I am a shirt manufacturer. If you ask me where to sell the shirt, I know. If you ask me where to buy the raw material, that is cotton, I know. If you ask me who will buy the raw material, I don't know, because I know the supplier of cotton. I don't know the buyer of cotton, because I myself am the buyer of cotton. So is there any commission on that? Definitely nothing there. Conversion cost, that's also not there. So raw material is kept for production, not kept for sale. So with respect to raw material, NRV might not be available with me upfront. So what will I do? In the absence of specific information, what will I do? The best estimate that is available for NRV is replacement price. Yeah, replacement price is regarded as the best estimate for our NRV. So what exactly do you mean by replacement price? Now, as I told you previously, I know where to buy the cotton from. I don't know where to sell the cotton. So what will happen when I don't know where to sell? It is like whatever I bought is like the sale to some other person. So the price at which I can buy the new cotton is the net realizable value of this particular cotton. So if this cotton is what to say extinguishing, or if this cotton is going abracadabra, gilly gilly, magic, hocus pocus, it's gone. In order to buy some other cotton, whatever the cost that I'll incur will become my replacement price. So replacement price is the cost incurred or the price incurred to replace that particular raw material. So with respect to raw material, the data might not be available regarding NRV. So the best estimate available is the replacement price. So we're done with the concept of inventory, that is with regard to cost and NRV. Come back. So let's see here. We are done with cost as well as NRV. So now we'll see the valuation of the cost. How do we do the valuation of the cost? So valuation techniques. Valuation of cost. When we go to valuation of cost, we need to see the type of inventory. So inventory for whatever the part we are trying to determine the cost can be two types. One, interchangeable. Second one, not interchangeable. Yeah, like one product can be replaced with the other product very easily. That is interchangeable. When the one product cannot be replaced with the other product very easily, it is not interchangeable. Example, if you talk about shirt industry, what I am talking, lot of shirts will look very similar. If I am making RCB, Isala Cup, Namde one t-shirt, every other RCB t-shirt will look very much similar. You get that? Whereas customization is required. You get that? Maybe assume I am making sari. Whenever I am making sari, there are designer wear saris. Each sari is different. Or assume that I am making jewelry. Each amount of jewelry will have different amount of gold. So then it will be not interchangeable. One cannot be replaced with other very easily. You get that? Whenever it is not interchangeable, whenever there is customization required, like designer wear, then we go with the method called as specific identification method. Yeah. So we basically follow specific identification method, usually called as SIM. Whenever the goods are interchangeable, then we need to check about one thing, whether the cost that I paid long ago, that is historical cost, is it considered or is it not considered? If the historical cost is considered or historical cost is not considered, that is the basis. If the historical cost is considered, then we basically go by first in first out method or weighted average method. I am not going to go in detail and then explain what is first in first out and what is weighted average, because that will make me feel like I am teaching foundation students. However, if it is historical cost method, if the historical cost is not considered, then I will go by retail price method, or I can go by standard cost method. Yeah. So what is allowed is FIFO and VAM. What is not allowed is our other two methods that we had, if you can remember. Yeah, we had simple average method, we had last in first out. Yeah, these two methods are not allowed at all at any cost. However, when historical cost is not considered, we go by retail price method, and we also go by what is a standard cost method. What exactly do we mean by retail price? Example, if you walk into a More market, or what to say any of these supermarkets where huge amount of goods are there, it is very difficult to individually identify the product. Then what do? We take the selling price in total and then subtract the margin from them. That will give us the cost. Or we can go by standard cost. That is the original budget that we had kept, original planning of what exactly is the material, what exactly is the labor, what exactly is the expense. We stick to our original plan or the budget. That comes to our standard cost. So this is how the valuation of the cost is specifically done. However, though we are done with this, we need to see a specific case, that is regarding our joint product and byproduct. Yes, come on, let's get going to joint product and byproduct. Yeah, the next discussion is joint product and byproduct. You get that? So before I tell you how to value joint product byproduct, we need to understand what exactly do you mean by joint product and what exactly do you mean by byproduct. Now, if a specific item has economical significance or financial importance, then it is joint product. If it doesn't have economical significance or if it doesn't have financial importance, then it becomes byproduct. I'll tell you. So we're basically considering two important factors. The factors that we're considering is first one, economical importance. Next one, economical significance, financial importance. Both mean the same. Economical significance, and the next one is financial importance. So with respect to joint product, economical significance is there, financial importance is also there. With respect to byproduct, there is no economical significance and there is no financial importance. Example, assume that I have a coconut farm wherein I have lot of coconut trees from which I will take the tender coconut out. Using this tender coconut, I will make coconut oil and then I will sell. You get that? In the process of taking the coconut oil out of it, I will have some amount of that coconut coir left out, using which I will make all these coconut ropes. I would say that ropes which will be used to pull heavy items. Now, whether that two items are out now, whether both of items, can it be called as joint products or can it be called as byproducts? Now the question, what is the main product here? The main product here is coconut oil, but the other product that's coming out, the coir, does it have economical significance? No, it has very least importance. Does it have financial importance? No. Even if that coir is being blown away with the air, I am okay with it because it doesn't cost really huge. So that my coconut oil becomes my main product and the coir becomes my byproduct. Another example, assume that I have an oil well, Bombay High. Yeah, I have a well from where if I dig, I'll get oil. So oil, what comes is crude oil. Using this crude oil, I'll extract air turbine fuel, that is white petroleum. I'll take out petroleum fuel like motorbike petroleum. You get that? And I'll take industrial spirit out. I'll take the gas, petrol, diesel, everything I'm taking out. And finally, there is petroleum jelly also. Now, every particular item that I'm taking out, petrol, diesel, petroleum jelly or gas, everything has its importance. You get that? So, in this particular case, from the crude oil, when I extract all these items, it is all called as joint products. So, from the crude oil, when petrol, diesel, gas and white petrol, everything is extracted, everything is called as joint products because they have economical significance as well as financial importance. Now, how do we basically value these particular items is the important discussion. So, firstly, we'll see with respect to byproduct. See, byproduct basically doesn't have economical significance and also they don't have any financial importance. So, they will be valued at NRV. They will be valued at net realizable value, and this net realizable value is decreased from, it is basically deducted. Okay, it reduces cost of production. I'll write, ouch, I didn't pick the eraser correctly. NRV. Yeah, it decreases our cost of production. So meaning in our coconut oil making industry, if I have certain amount of coir that comes out and if I sell that coir for 1 lakh rupees, that coir recovery of 1 lakh, I'll reduce it from the cost of manufacturing my coconut oil. You get that? So that's with respect to byproduct. Now let us go to joint product. Joint product means now there will be more than one product. So we need to segregate that cost between two products. How do we segregate? We need to see, yeah, whether the cost is distinguishable or not. Distinguishable, meaning you can specifically identify how much of this joint product's cost is for this product, how much of this joint product's cost for this product. You can specifically allocate. If you can allocate, then it's easy, isn't it? Yeah. So what to say, that product, that cost, very easy. Then the interesting discussion comes when it is not distinguishable. We can easily not identify how much belongs to which product. Yeah. If it is not distinguishable with respect to crude oil, what do we do? Shall I go how many liters of petrol came, how many liters of diesel came? So in that ratio of the output, can I do it? No. The usual basis is not our the quantity, it is the net realizable value of the joint products. Yeah. So we basically take the selling prices of the joint products multiplied with the quantity. So that will become the basis on which we'll do it. So here we have specific data. Specifically it's available. Specifically product wise data is available to us and we go by that. So this is how we value joint products and byproducts. So now we're done with our entire discussion regarding what? See, we finished our what, why, how and also everything. So now we'll head into our discussion regarding when. So we're discussing when. So we basically have two items. One is cost, other one is NRV. Cost is at the time of purchase. So when means at the time of purchase. So what is the answer to when? At the time of purchase or at the time of incurring cost or incurring the cost. Now the question is NRV. Usually what we used to do was as on balance sheet date, or we can call it what? Year end, that is 31st of March. That's what we used to consider. But Ind AS 2 talks a little more. It says after the year end, that is 31st of March, if there is any significant change happening in the net realizable value, and if this happens before the date on which balance sheet is approved, then that changed NRV is to be considered. So it is as on the balance sheet date, or if there is significant change, then as on date of approval of financial statements. As on date of approval of financial statements is to be considered. So this becomes tricky here. You get that? I'll explain this to you. So NRV is to be considered as on the balance sheet date usually. However, if there is any significant changes happening, the changed value of NRV is to be considered. Now assume a scenario where 31st of March, yeah, cost is 100, NRV is 80. However, before the financial statements are approved, we'll discuss that events occurring after reporting period. Yeah, as on 1st of May, assume that NRV becomes 75. Then what will we do? Previously, we used to not care about this 75. We used to take 100 or 80, whichever is less. Now, because there is more better estimate available, this 75 will be of higher importance, and we'll compare 100 and 75, whichever is less, and we'll basically take 75 as the value of our inventory. You get that? So the NRV will be considered not on the balance sheet date. It will be considered anytime before the financial statements are approved if the change happening after the balance sheet date is very, very significant. You get that? So that is the concept with respect to our inventory valuation. So very important point. What is it? If there is any change happening in the value of the inventory after the balance sheet date before the financial statements are approved, so we need to take that. So the entire discussion is as on the balance sheet date, or if there is any significant change, then as on the date of approval of financial statements or just before the approval of financial statements. So what we do with regard to our inventory as an important point is writing down of inventory. What do we mean by writing down of inventory? That is, if the cost is more and NRV is less, we decrease it. Like cost is greater than NRV, then what do? Write down. Okay, I'll write it completely. Write down to NRV. That's what we do. So what if in the next year it reverses? Previously we didn't have this concept of reversal. You get that? Example, assume cost was 100, NRV was 80. Then what happened? We took it as 80. In the next year, what if the cost we took it as 80 from here? Assume that there is no purchases in the next year. Yeah, assume that in the next year the NRV becomes 90. Then what do? Should I take 80? No, this NRV has changed from 80 to 90. No, so economic circumstances have changed, increasing the value of the inventory. Then I will actually take my inventory back at 90. So what is happening? I am taking whichever is high. How is this possible? I am basically taking my original cost of 100 or NRV of 90, whichever is less. So I am not considering this revised cost of 80. So when the cost of the inventory is written down to NRV, in the next year, if the economic circumstances are changing leading to difference in the NRV, then it can be restated to the original values. that is only up to the original cost. Meaning if in the same scenario, if I take my cost was 80 and if my NRV becomes 110, can I rate 110? No. In that scenario, I will be considering 100 and 110, so my cost will remain 100. You get that? It cannot be written over and above cost. So the entire point of discussion is something very simple. I'll write it down here for you. So restatement. Ouch. I'll take it to black. Yeah. Restatement of inventory written down previously. What is this? Restatement of the inventory written down previously. So what is this? Change in economic circumstances. What will it lead to? It will lead to change in NRV. Whenever I say change in NRV, I am basically referring to increase. You get that? Then what will we do? Reverse the written down inventory, and this can be done up to original cost. This can be done up to original cost. It cannot be done beyond original cost. You get that? So here 110 was there, but I still took only 100. It can be written back only up to the original cost. You get that? So this is the discussion with respect to when. Very interesting. Few important points that are there which you have to revise before exam is, the first one is restatement of inventory written down that we discussed now, and the second important point is with regard to this joint product by product is same as accounting standards, so not anything tricky there. So the next important point is, with respect to this fixed overhead valuation, we do it on normal or actual, whichever is high. This is again something very new which is there under Ind AS. I mean to say this is a shortcut. People might find it little tricky here. So this is another important point that you need to note before your exam. And that's it. If you can note this, the rest of the items will sound very similar, and this finishes our discussion with respect to Ind AS 2 inventory. Solve quite a lot of questions to get complete comfort zone on Ind AS 2, and see you all in a new lecture with new Ind AS in the upcoming session. So till then, stay in the game.